So I decided to design and build a crane, a hoist, in my garage. I videotaped it. I put all the video together. As I was playing it back, I realized there was no intro. Nobody knew what the heck I was doing. So this is an intro. I have decided to put up a crane, an electric hoist in my garage to help me lift heavy things, which I'm getting to the age where I don't really like to lift heavy things much no more, and I still have a need to. Anyhow, this is the end result. So anyway, this is where I fabricated all this stuff. So just a quick view around the mess. So this segment will be cobbed on to the beginning of the other stuff that I just did. So hope you enjoy. Don't be afraid to do things yourself. You can make it easy. This is the rails as they're laid out on the floor, as they're going to be on the ceiling. I've chalk lined them on the ceiling on the outside edges of where they're going to go. And then hung plumb bobs on the corners down and positioned the 2x6s, which will be bolted to the ceiling, exactly in the position that they'll be up there. And these are good and square to about 1/8 of an inch. This is the cross beam. It's actually made out of 2 pieces of aluminum channel, architectural channel, about 2x4. They're bolted together, and I've made a couple of skates. These guys right here with bearings. This is made out of 1/2-inch aluminum that I've machined. These are 1/2-inch bearings here that'll actually ride along that rail over there, or actually along these rails. There's 5mm side bearings to keep them straight in position along the rail. I've actually tried these and they work. These are not, well, I guess that is together, isn't it? Both these things together, and this thing slides along, although it'll be upside down. There's 2 of these. These 2 will be positioned on an I-beam made out of these 2 pieces, and those 2 pieces that will run longitudinally along the ceiling there. And that piece right there will have these 2 skates on the end of it, so that it'll be able to slide. It'll slide down this way and that way. The winch will have a skate on it so that it'll be able to go side to side. So that piece is 8 inches or 8 feet long. This 2x is 8 feet long. These U-channels right here, which will be bolted together. These are U-rails right now, but they'll be bolted together to form an I-beam, like that guy up there. And they will be bolted to these 2x6s. Once these 2x6s are bolted to the attic up there. So I'll have an I-beam rail here, an I-beam rail there, and then that I-beam rail right there will go crossways across them and will slide down this way and that way, and the winch will be able to move back and forth across it. So that gives me a 64 square foot area right here in my garage bay that I'll be able to use. I guess you call it a gantry crane. I'm not sure what the heck it would be. But anyway, that's my plan. Okay, I made these little wooden brackets right here to screw up to the ceiling or I could just lay the 2x in them. They're free, they move. I can move them back and forth and front and back. So I've got 2 on this side and 2 over on that side. And the boards are just sitting against the ceiling right now. Got a pretty nice little bow right there. That's kind of weird. I guess that's why those 2.5-inch bolts didn't hit the wood underneath. That'll pull down with the bigger lag bolts. Anyway, these are along, there's the blue line, the chalk line. That marks the edge of this one. So these are just moving around. So that'll let me place them. I'll set that one first, parallel to that wall. Get it screwed into the rafters, and that'll establish it in its position. And then I'll measure exactly equal distance over to that one and screw it to the wall. And then once these rails here are assembled, they will bolt to those 2x6s. And those 2x6s will be held up in every joist. The joists are on 16-inch centers by 4-inch long, 3/8 diameter lag bolts. And what I plant there, like every 2 feet, there's this beam assembled. Those are held together by 5/16 bolts every 16 inches all the way down. That beam right there is a little bit over 8 feet. These two will be exactly 8 feet, and they will hang from those 2x6s up there. The trick is to get them exactly parallel with each other. So this 2x6 right here, front to the leading edge of it was established by the drop down stairwell. This guy over here will be matched equidistant from the wall to that end. That'll make these two exactly the same distance from that wall. That 2x will be parallel to that wall right there, very carefully measured. And then I'll screw that to the ceiling rafters, and then I'll measure carefully over to this guy and get him exactly parallel to this one. I've only got about 1/8 of an inch play either side, or the skates will catch and bind up. So they've got to be exactly parallel. Front to back, they've got a little bit of going this way. They got a little bit of leeway, but going this way, they have to be exact. Very, very close tolerance. Okay, this is one of the longitudinal beams. That's the other one. Those holes in the edge of it will be used to bolt it to that 2x6 up there. And this one will be used to bolt up to that 2x6 right up there. This is the cross beam. And this bolted together just the same. These are 5/16 18 bolts that are used to bolt the 2 halves of this U-channel together to make an I-beam out of it. This is one of the skates that this thing fits through, and it rolls pretty easy. Of course, it's on here upside down right now. Pull this guy up. There's the other skate on the other end. This beam will go up there on a 2x6, And that beam right there, which will be assembled to that skate, and that will go up to this beam up here. And that beam and that beam are about 6 feet apart. And this cross beam here is about 8 feet long, just a smidge over 8 feet long. These longitudinal beams, this one, these are exactly 8 feet long. So the cross beam will slide along this 8 feet, and I'll have about 8 feet across this way for the hoist, and it will fit anywhere inside this 64 square foot area, I hope. That's my plan anyway. Well, the beams are up, the cross beam is up. Thank goodness for ropes and rigging to get those things pulled up. But this is the it's got a bump stop at the end so it doesn't fall off and crash the car. But it rolled smooth, parallel and perpendicular, and all that stuff plays well. Now I've got to get the skate made to fit along that beam there that the motor, the hoist, will ride back and forth on. It's working. I'm happy. Okay, it's done, sort of. It's hanging up there, and it works. These were aluminum structural channels, U-beams. I bolted them together to make I-beams out of them. And I built little skates up there with bearings so that this thing rolls forward and backward. Got about an 8-foot path this way. And it's got about a 8-foot path this way with a stop on the end so it doesn't roll off onto my head. So I can move this thing around pretty much anywhere I want to. I'm going to have to hang the cord somehow so that it telescopes, but anyway. Double pull, that thing's capable, it says, of 880 pounds. Since this is bolted to the ceiling, I don't think I'll ever pull more than a couple of 300 pounds with it. It's almost 25 feet from side to side. There's no center supports. The joist up in the attic, I guess the rafters or joists up there, 2x10s are on 16-inch centers. So that'll be pretty strong. I'm anxious to start using it. I got a couple of projects in mind already. I got to pull the intake off my 98 S10 pickup truck and replace the intake manifold gasket. And it's just at the right angle and tall enough that it's hard for me to reach over and lift something that heavy. It's not real heavy, but the angle is too much. So this will lift the intake up off of it. Plus I've got a crankshaft that I've got to position, but put back in this SBC 400 block I've got back here. Right there in plastic. Just got, that's a high performance motor right there. That thing is a beast. But I pulled the crank out of it because I was losing oil pressure. Come to find out, when the thing was machined, the gaps in the mains and the main bearings are just a little bit too wide. They're about 4 thousandths. So I'm going to cut those down to about 1.5 to 2 thousandths. But the pistons and rods and everything are still in that block, and the cam and everything, so I'm going to use the hoist to help me position the crankshaft above the block and push the pistons up one at a time and connect them so I don't damage any journals with rod bolts, which I've done before. Anyhow, I'm pretty happy with that.